My son looked me in the eye at the church door and told me to leave my granddaughter's baptism because his wife said my energy was too overwhelming. So I smiled, walked out, and made one phone call that froze their entire world. 2 hours later, their credit cards were declining in front of 50 guests, and by nightfall, my daughter-in-law was facing eviction. They thought they could cut me out, but keep my money. They were wrong. Drop your city in the comments and subscribe. Ready for an amazing story? Let's begin. Let me tell you how a grandmother's silence became the loudest revenge of all. The heavy oak doors of St. Jude's were already open, letting the warm morning sunlight spill into the vestibule. I adjusted the garment bag over my arm, feeling the weight of it. It wasn't heavy, not really, but it felt heavy to me because of what was inside. It was the christening gown. I had spent the last 3 months stitching it by hand. It was made of French lace and silk from my own wedding dress, preserved for 40 years for this exact moment. I checked my reflection in the glass of the church notice board. I wanted to look perfect for my granddaughter, Bella. I was wearing my navy blue suit, the one Leo always said made me look distinguished. My hair was set, my shoes were polished, and my heart was full. This was it. The day my first grandchild would be baptized. I had written a check for the reception venue. I had organized the flowers, and I had stayed up late nights finishing the embroidery on the hem of the gown. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The church was buzzing with that hushed, reverent excitement you only find before a ceremony. I saw them immediately. They were standing near the front by the baptismal font. My son, Leo, looked handsome in his charcoal suit. Beside him was Lisa. She was holding Bella, rocking her gently. They looked like a picture-perfect family. My chest swelled with pride. That was my boy. That was my grandbaby. I started walking down the center aisle, my heels clicking softly on the stone floor. I had a smile, ready, the kind of smile that takes up your whole face. But then the atmosphere shifted. It happened the moment Lisa saw me. Her head snapped up. Her eyes narrowed, not with a greeting, but with something sharp and cold. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She leaned in close to Leo and whispered something frantically in his ear. I saw Leo stiffen. He looked at her, then back at me, then down at the floor. He looked pained. He looked like a man who was being asked to do something he knew was wrong, but was too weak to stop it. I slowed my pace, my grip tightening on the garment bag. Surely I was imagining things. Maybe there was a problem with the priest. Maybe they had forgotten the candle. Leo broke away from Lisa and started walking toward me. He was walking fast, intercepting me before I could get anywhere near the altar or the other guests. He met me halfway down the aisle, right next to the third pew. "Leo," I said, reaching out to touch his arm. "You look wonderful. And look at Bella. She's—" He stepped back. He actually took a step back to avoid my touch. "Mom, stop," he said. His voice was low, a harsh whisper. He wasn't looking me in the eye. He was looking over my shoulder at the exit. "What's wrong?" I asked, my smile faltering. "Is everything okay with the baby?" "The baby is fine," Leo said. He took a breath, like he was preparing to jump off a cliff. "Mom, you can't be here." I stared at him. The words didn't make sense. It was like he was speaking a foreign language. "What do you mean?" "I'm here for the baptism. I have the gown right here. I made it for her, remember? We talked about this." "I know," Leo said, and for a second I saw a flash of misery in his eyes. But then he glanced back at Lisa. She was watching us like a hawk, her arms crossed over her chest, tapping her foot. She gave him a sharp nod. Leo turned back to me, his face hardening. She's very sensitive right now. Postpartum hormones. She's anxious." "I understand that, Leo," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, though my heart was starting to hammer against my ribs. I've been nothing but supportive. I've stayed away when she asked. I've only come when invited. Today is the baptism. I am the grandmother. That's just it, Leo said. He finally looked at me. Lisa says your energy is too overwhelming for the baby. She says you take over the room and it stresses her out. She doesn't want that negativity around Bella on her special day. Overwhelming. Negativity. I felt like I had been slapped. I had paid for the house they were sleeping in. I had paid for the car they drove here in. I had just paid $5,000 for the reception lunch they were going to eat in 2 hours. And I was overwhelming. Leo, I said, my voice trembling slightly, I am your mother. This is my granddaughter. You cannot seriously be asking me to leave. I'm not asking, Leo said. He sounded tired now, defensive. I'm telling you, if you stay, Lisa is going to cause a scene, and she might even take the baby and leave. I can't let that happen. Please, Mom, just go. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I looked past him at Lisa. She wasn't looking away anymore. She was staring right at me, and there it was, a smirk, a tiny, triumphant curling of her lip. She had won. She had successfully cut me out. She knew exactly what she was doing. This wasn't about hormones. This wasn't about energy. This was about power. She wanted to see if she could make her husband choose her over the woman who raised him. And he had. I felt a tear prick the corner of my eye, but I willed it back. I would not cry. I would not give her the satisfaction of seeing me break down in the middle of the church. If they wanted me gone, I would go, but I would go with my dignity intact. I stood up straighter. I smoothed the front of my jacket. I looked at my son, really looked at him. I saw the weakness in his jaw, the fear in his eyes. I realized then that I had raised a boy, but I hadn't raised a man. A man would have defended his mother. I see, I said. My voice was ice cold. It didn't sound like my voice. If that is how you feel, Leo, then I won't stay where I'm not wanted. I held out the garment bag. What's this? He asked, looking confused. It's the gown, I said. It's French lace. It's an heirloom. I spent 3 months making it. Just because I am not welcome doesn't mean Bella should suffer. Make sure she wears it. It's expensive. Leo took the bag. He looked shameful holding it. Mom, Don't. I cut him off. Don't say another word. You've said enough. I didn't wait for him to respond. I turned on my heel. I didn't look back at the altar. I didn't look back at the guests who were starting to whisper. I walked straight out the way I came, my head held high. My steps were steady. Click, click, click against the stone. I pushed open the heavy oak doors and stepped out into the bright sunshine. It felt blinding now. The contrast between the warmth of the sun and the coldness inside, my chest was jarring. I walked to my car, a sensible sedan parked in the shade of an elm tree. I unlocked the door and slid into the driver's seat. I closed the door, shutting out the world. The silence in the car was deafening. For a moment, I just sat there. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I waited for the tears to come. I waited for the sobbing, the grief, the heartbreak, but they didn't come. Instead, I felt a burning sensation in my chest. It wasn't sorrow. It was clarity. I looked at the dashboard clock. 10:45 a.m. The service was starting. They were in there, celebrating. They were probably relieved I was gone. Lisa was probably telling everyone I was ill or confused. They were going to go to the reception lunch that I paid for. They were going to go back to the home that I paid the down payment for. They were going to live their lives on my dime while treating me like a stranger. I breathed in slowly through my nose and out through my mouth. Overwhelming, I whispered to myself. If they thought I was overwhelming before, They had no idea what was coming. They wanted me to be invisible. Fine. But they forgot one thing. Invisible people don't write checks. I reached into my purse. I didn't reach for a tissue. I reached for my phone. I wasn't going home to cry into a pillow. I had a phone call to make. And it wasn't to Leo. I started the engine. The low hum of the car felt like a growl. I put the car in gear and pulled out of the church parking lot. As I drove away, I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I was done looking back. I was ready to settle the score. The road stretched out in front of me, a long ribbon of gray asphalt. I wasn't driving fast. I was driving with a strange, eerie calm. My hands were at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, just like my father taught me 50 years ago. The radio was off. The air conditioner was humming low. That was the only sound in the world. Usually, after a confrontation like that, I would be a mess. I would be reaching for the tissue box I keep in the glove compartment. I would be replaying the conversation in my head, wondering what I did wrong. I would be thinking, maybe I was too loud. Maybe my perfume was too strong. Maybe I shouldn't have worn navy. But not today. Today, my eyes were dry. My breathing was steady. The hurt was there deep in my gut, but it was being overshadowed by something else. It was being pushed aside by a cold, hard realization. It was like a fog was lifting off the road, and for the first time in years, I could see the landscape clearly. I passed the highway exit for my house, but I didn't turn. I kept driving. My mind started to drift back, not to the baptism, but to 3 years ago. I remembered sitting at my kitchen table with Leo and Lisa. They had just gotten married. They were holding hands, looking at me with big, hopeful eyes. They had found a house. It was a beautiful colonial in a good school district. It was perfect, but they didn't have the 20% down payment. It's an investment, Mom, Leo had said, squeezing my hand. It's where your grandchildren will grow up. We want you to be a part of it. There's a beautiful guest suite on the ground floor. It'll be your room whenever you visit. You can stay for weeks at a time. Lisa had nodded enthusiastically. We want you there, Yvette. Your family. We can't do this without you. I remembered the feeling of warmth that had spread through my chest. They wanted me. They wanted me close. I was a widow. The thought of being alone in my old age terrified me. So I did it. I went to the bank the next day. I withdrew $50,000 from my retirement savings. $50,000. That was money my late husband and I had saved nickel by nickel. I wrote the check. I handed it to them. They hugged me. They cried. They promised I would always have a home with them. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Where was that guest suite now? 6 months after they moved in, Lisa decided she needed a home office for her career. Lisa doesn't have a job. Not a real one. She calls herself a lifestyle influencer. She spends her days taking pictures of her coffee and posting videos about mindfulness. She said she needed the guest room for her lighting equipment and her backdrops. It's just temporary, Mom. Leo had told me, just until her business takes off. That was 2 years ago. The business hasn't made a dime. In fact, it costs money. It costs my money. I thought about the credit card bill I pay every month. It's a joint card I opened for Leo for emergencies when he was in college. I never took him off it because I wanted him to have a safety net. But looking at the statements lately, the definition of emergency had changed. An emergency was apparently a $300 brunch with friends. An emergency was a new designer handbag because Lisa needed it for a brand aesthetic. An emergency was organic, imported diapers because regular ones weren't good enough for their image. I had let it slide. I had paid the bills. I told myself I was helping. I told myself that young people struggle these days, and it was my duty as a mother to ease their burden. I thought I was buying their security, But as I drove past a strip mall, seeing ordinary people going about their Sunday errands, the truth hit me so hard I almost slammed on the brakes. I wasn't buying their security. I was buying their tolerance. I was paying a subscription fee to be part of my own son's family. And today, they had canceled my subscription, but they still expected me to pay the bill. I thought about the check for the reception. $5,000 to the Gilded Lily, the most expensive venue in town. Lisa had insisted on it. She wanted a specific vegan menu. She wanted imported sparkling water. She wanted a flower wall for photos. It has to be perfect, Yvette, she had said last week, not even looking up from her phone. People are going to be posting about this. We can't have cheap catering. I had written that check yesterday. I handed it to the coordinator with a smile, excited to celebrate my granddaughter. And what did I get for it? Your energy is overwhelming. You can't be here. The audacity of it was breathtaking. They honestly believed that they could treat me like a nuisance, humiliate me in the house of God, and then go eat the food I paid for in the clothes I bought, and go home to the house I secured. They didn't see me as a person. They saw me as an ATM. An ATM doesn't have feelings. An ATM doesn't get to hold the baby. An ATM just dispenses cash and stays in the corner until it's needed again. A cold chill went down my spine, but it wasn't fear. It was resolve. I had created this monster. I had to own that. I had taught them that my love came with a blank check. I had taught them that no matter how disrespectful they were, I would always be there to bail them out because I was desperate for their love. I had been weak. I had been a doormat. But the woman who walked out of that church 10 minutes ago was not the same woman who walked in. That woman died the moment her son turned his back on her. I glanced at the passenger seat, where my purse sat. Inside was my phone. Inside was my checkbook. They thought they held all the cards. They thought they could dictate the terms of our relationship because they had the baby. They thought I would go home, cry for a few days, and then come crawling back with gifts and apologies, begging to see my granddaughter. They were wrong. I wasn't sad anymore. I was calculating. I started doing the math in my head. The mortgage was in Leo's name, but the down payment was a gift with a signed letter, or so they thought. I remembered the paperwork differently. I remembered my name being on the deed as a co-signer because Leo's credit hadn't been strong enough at the time. I remembered the car lease. That was definitely in my name. I remembered the joint bank account, the one where I deposited money every month for the baby fund. I slowed the car down as I approached a red light. I looked at the cars around me. Families driving to lunch. Grandmothers sitting in back seats holding toddlers. It looked so normal. It was what I wanted more than anything, but I wasn't going to buy it anymore. If Lisa wanted to be a strong, independent woman who didn't need her mother-in-law around, then she was about to get her wish. She was about to find out exactly how independent she really was. The light turned green. I didn't turn toward my empty house. I signaled left. I was heading toward the business district. It was Sunday, so the bank was closed, but the ATM vestibules were open. And I knew exactly where the after-hours drop box for the country club was, where the reception was being held. The Bank of Mom had been open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 30 years. It had weathered tantrums, college tuition, wedding costs, and down payments. It had never closed. Until now. I pressed my foot on the accelerator. I felt a strange sense of power returning to me. They wanted silence. They wanted me gone. Fine. I would give them silence. The silence of a frozen bank account. The silence of a declined credit card. I wasn't just a grandmother. I was the financial foundation of their entire fake life. And I was about to pull the rug out from under them. I pulled the car over at the scenic overlook on Ridge Road, about 2 miles from the church. It was a spot my late husband, Frank, and I used to come to on Sunday afternoons. From here, you could see the whole town stretched out like a toy village. You could see the church steeple where I had just been humiliated. You could see the roof of the Gilded Lily, the country club where my money was currently paying for champagne toasts I wasn't allowed to hear. I put the car in park, but kept the engine running. My hands were shaking, not from sadness anymore, but from the adrenaline of what I was about to do. For months, I had felt like I was going crazy. That's what Lisa did. She made you doubt your own reality. She would move my things and claim I lost them. She would make snide comments and then say she was joking. She would ask for money for bills, but then come home with new jewelry she claimed was thrifted. I had tried to ignore the little voice in the back of my head. The voice that said, something is wrong. She is lying to you. But mothers have intuition for a reason. And grandmothers, we see everything. 3 months ago, I stopped ignoring that voice. I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a professional. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. My contacts list was open. I scrolled past Leo, past home, and stopped on a name listed simply as RM, Raymond Miller. He was a retired police detective who now worked as a private investigator. He wasn't cheap, but he was discreet. I had met him in a diner 3 towns over and paid him a retainer in cash. I told him to look into my daughter-in-law's finances. I told him I suspected she was in trouble, maybe gambling, maybe debt. I wanted to help her. At least, that's what I told myself back then. Deep down, I think I knew I was looking for ammunition. I pressed the call button. It rang twice. Mrs. Carrier, Raymond's voice was gravelly and calm. I didn't expect to hear from you on a Sunday. Isn't it the big day? It was, I said, my voice steady. I need to know, Raymond, is the file ready? There was a pause on the line. I heard the rustle of papers. It's ready. I was going to mail it to you tomorrow, but honestly, Yvette, you might want to hear the highlights now. My stomach tightened. Tell me. It's not gambling, Raymond said. It's credit cards. 3 of them. All in her maiden name. Sent to a P.O. box in Westville. The balances are maxed out. About $40,000 in total. 40,000. My head spun. Leo didn't know about this. He couldn't. He panicked if we owed $50 on the electric bill. And Raymond continued, his voice dropping an octave. I confirmed the yoga retreat she went on last month. I closed my eyes. She wasn't at yoga, was she? No, ma'am. She was at a hotel in the city. And she wasn't alone. I have photos of her having lunch and breakfast with a man named Kenneth. Records show they went to high school together. Kenneth. The name hung in the air like a bad smell. I remembered her mentioning a Kenneth years ago, an old friend who sold insurance. Is it romantic? I asked, needing to be sure. The photos are pretty clear, Mrs. Carrier, Raymond said gently, holding hands across the table. Him paying for everything with cash. She handed him under the table. It looks like she's funding him. Yvette. It looks like she's using your son's money, your money, to keep this guy afloat. I felt bile rise in my throat. It wasn't just disrespect. It was theft. It was betrayal of the highest order. While I was stitching a christening gown, she was funneling family money to a boyfriend. While Leo was working overtime, she was laughing in a hotel with another man. And today, she had the nerve to kick me out of the church because I was overwhelming. She didn't want me there because she couldn't look me in the eye. Guilt makes people cruel. Send me everything, I told Raymond. Email me the digital copies right now. I want the photos, the bank statements, the dates, everything. Consider it done, Raymond said. I'm sorry, Yvette. Don't be, I said, looking out at the town below. You just saved me a fortune. I hung up. The phone felt hot in my hand. I had the truth now. The weapon was loaded, but I wasn't done. Knowledge was power, but action was control. I dialed the next number. This one I knew by heart. It was the private line for Arthur Henderson, my banker for over 30 years. He was semi-retired now, but he still handled my portfolio personally. He would be at home, probably watching the football game, but he always told me to call if it was urgent. This was urgent. Yvette. Arthur answered on the third ring. Everything all right? I thought you'd be at the reception. I'm not at the reception. Arthur, I said, and I need you to do something for me. Right now. Ideally, it would wait until Monday morning, but it can't wait. I cut him off. I need you to access the joint checking account. The one with Leo and myself on it. Okay, he said, the shift in my tone making him serious. I'm opening the laptop now. What do you need? Freeze it, I said. Freeze it, Arthur repeated. Yvette, that's the account Leo uses for the mortgage and household expenses. If I freeze it, his debit cards won't work. His automatic payments will bounce. I know, I said. Freeze it completely. Mark it for suspicious activity if you have to. No money goes in, no money comes out. I heard the clicking of keys on his end. All right, it's done. The account is locked. Is there anything else? Yes, I said. Check number 402. It was written yesterday to the Gilded Lily for $5,000. I see it, Arthur said. It hasn't cleared yet. Stop payment on it. I ordered. Arthur hesitated. Yvette, the Gilded Lily? That's a catering venue. If I stop payment on a Sunday and they try to run it, they're trying to run it right now, I said, glancing at the dashboard clock. It was 11:15 a.m. The reception started at 11:30. The manager would be running the final payment before serving the appetizers. That was standard policy. If I stop this check, Arthur warned, it's going to be very embarrassing for whoever is there. The card machine will show, refer to drawer, or payment stopped. It sends a red flag. Good, I said. That's exactly what I want. Yvette, Arthur asked softly. Did something happen? They decided I wasn't family, Arthur, I said, my voice cracking just for a split second before I clamped it down. They decided I was just a checkbook. Well, the checkbook is closed. I understand, Arthur said. Stop payment is confirmed. The funds are secure in your primary savings. Anything else? No. Thank you, Arthur. I ended the call. I sat there for a moment, listening to the engine hum. I looked down at the town again. Somewhere down there, in that fancy country club, a waiter was probably walking up to Leo right now. A manager was probably holding that check, looking confused. Lisa was probably smiling, thinking she had successfully erased me from the picture. She thought she had won the war. She didn't realize she had just lost her supply lines. She wanted to play games with energy. She wanted to talk about who belongs and who doesn't. I put the car in drive. I wasn't going to the reception, and I wasn't going back to their house. I was going to my own home, to a quiet house that I owned free and clear, to drink a cup of tea and wait for the inevitable explosion. I whispered into the empty car, a promise to myself and to the son who had betrayed me. If I'm not family, then my money isn't family money. I pulled back onto the road. The rearview mirror was empty, but the road ahead was clear. I was taking my life back, and it was going to cost them everything. I wasn't there to see the fallout in person. I was sitting at my kitchen table, nursing a cup of Earl Grey tea and enjoying the silence of my own home. But in a small town like ours, you don't need to be present to know exactly what happened. News travels faster than light, especially when it involves a public humiliation at the most expensive venue in the county. My cousin, Sarah, who had attended the baptism mostly out of obligation to me, called me later that evening. She gave me the play-by-play, and I won't lie, I listened to every word. According to Sarah, the reception at the Gilded Lily started off beautifully. Or, at least, it started off exactly how Lisa wanted it to. Without me there to overwhelm the room, Lisa was in her element. She was holding court at the head table. The baby posed perfectly on her lap for the photographer she had hired. She was laughing, tossing her hair, and clinking champagne flutes with her friends. Leo looked relieved. That was the word Sarah used. He looked like a man who had successfully defused a bomb. He thought the hard part was over. He thought kicking his mother out of the church was the price he had to pay for a peaceful afternoon, and he was fine with that transaction. He was relaxing, loosening his tie, probably thinking that he could call me in a week, apologize, and everything would go back to normal. He thought the Bank of Mom was just temporarily closed for maintenance, not shut down permanently. The appetizers were being passed around, lobster sliders and truffle deviled eggs. The guests were mingling. Lisa was beaming, acting like the queen bee, telling anyone who would listen how intimate and special the day felt without certain negative influences. Then, the mood changed. Sarah said she saw the venue manager, Mr. Sterling, walk into the room. Mr. Sterling is a professional. He's been running the Gilded Lily for 20 years. He doesn't make scenes. But he walked straight past the waiters, straight past the guests, and tapped Leo on the shoulder. He didn't smile. He whispered something in Leo's ear. Leo's face went pale. He stood up looking confused. He tried to wave Mr. Sterling away, probably telling him it was a mistake, but the manager didn't budge. He gestured toward the portable payment terminal in his hand. The room didn't go silent immediately, but people started to notice. You know how it is at weddings and parties. Eyes are always watching the head table. Sarah said she saw Lisa grab Leo's arm, her smile tight and fake. "What is it?" she hissed, loud enough for the people at table 2 to hear. "Leo, what's wrong?" "There's a problem with the payment," Leo muttered, his voice cracking. Mr. Sterling wasn't whispering anymore. He wasn't shouting, but his voice carried that firm, authoritative tone of a man who wants his money. "Sir, the check provided for the final balance has been stopped. The bank has flagged it. We cannot serve the main course until the balance of $5,000 is settled." Stopped. The word hung in the air. Lisa looked like she had swallowed a lemon. "Stopped? What do you mean stopped? Yvette wrote that check." "And Mrs. Carrier stopped it 30 minutes ago," Mr. Sterling said calmly. "We need a valid form of payment immediately, or I have to ask my staff to clear the tables." Panic started to set in. Leo fumbled for his wallet. He pulled out his debit card, the one linked to our joint account, the one he used for groceries, gas, and apparently his wife's lifestyle. He swiped it through the machine Mr. Sterling was holding. We all know what happened next. Beep. Declined. Leo frowned. He wiped the chip on his jacket and inserted it again. Beep. Declined. Try it again. Lisa snapped, her voice rising an octave. "It's a bank error. Just run it again." "It's not a reading error, ma'am," Mr. Sterling said, looking at the screen. "The code is issuer restricted. The account has been frozen." Leo froze. He looked up, and for the first time, the reality of what he had done hit him. He looked at the machine, then at the door, as if expecting me to walk in and fix it. He realized then that I hadn't just gone home to cry. I had gone home to cut the cord. "Do you have another card?" Mr. Sterling asked, his patience thinning. Leo didn't. He didn't have $5,000 on his personal credit card. That was maxed out from their baby moon in Cabo. He turned to Lisa. "Give him your card." Lisa's eyes went wide. She clutched her purse. I don't have it on me." We both knew that was a lie. She had her cards. But she also knew they were maxed out thanks to her lunches with Kenneth. She couldn't hand over a card because it would decline to, and then Leo would know about her secret debt right there in front of everyone. This is ridiculous. Lisa shouted. She stood up, the baby starting to cry from the sudden movement. My mother-in-law did this. She's trying to ruin my daughter's baptism because she's jealous. She's a vindictive old woman. The room went dead silent. Guests were staring. The waiters had stopped pouring wine. The illusion of the perfect family had shattered into a million pieces. Mr. Sterling was unmoved by her outburst. I understand this is a difficult situation, but this is a business. No payment, no service. He signaled to the head waiter. Sarah told me it was the most humiliating thing she had ever seen. The waiters, who were holding heavy trays of prime rib and salmon, literally turned around and marched back into the kitchen. The sound of the swinging kitchen doors was the only noise in the room. Lisa turned on Leo. Fix this. Leo, fix this right now. Do something. But Leo couldn't do anything. He was a man who had lived his entire adult life on a safety net, and he had just cut the ropes himself. He looked at Lisa's parents, the cool in-laws who were always invited to everything but never contributed a dime. They looked down at their plates, suddenly very interested in the tablecloth. They certainly weren't going to volunteer $5,000. Leo had to make the announcement. He had to stand up, his face burning red, and tell 50 of our friends and family, people I had known for decades, that there was a technical difficulty, and the reception was ending early. We'll do cake and coffee at the house, he stammered. Lisa was furious. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, leaving Leo to gather the baby carrier and the diaper bag. As she passed Sarah's table, Sarah heard her muttering, "She's going to pay for this. I'm going to make sure she never sees this kid again." Sarah called me from the car 10 minutes later. "Yvette," she said, "it was a disaster. The food never came out. People were leaving envelopes on the table and walking out because they felt so awkward." Lisa was screaming at Leo in the parking lot. I listened to Sarah's story, and I took another sip of my tea. It was still warm. "Thank you for telling me, Sarah," I said. "Are you okay?" she asked. "It sounds awful." "I'm fine," I said honestly. "Actually, I think it sounds like justice." I hung up the phone. I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little bit. They wanted a party without me. They got it. They got a party without me, and without my money. They learned a valuable lesson today. You don't bite the hand that feeds you, especially right before dinner. But I knew this wasn't over. Lisa was embarrassed, and embarrassment makes people like her dangerous. She would twist this. She would spin the story to make herself the victim. She would send Leo over here to demand an explanation. I looked at the folder sitting on the table next to my teacup. The folder Raymond had emailed, which I had printed out on my home printer. The photos of Lisa and Kenneth, the bank statements. Let them come. Let Leo come over here and scream about his ruined party. I had something far more interesting to discuss than catering bills. The party was over, but the real show was just about to begin. The sun had gone down hours ago. Outside, the street lights were flickering on, casting long shadows across my front lawn. Inside, my house was quiet. I had turned off the television. I didn't want any noise. I wanted to be able to hear the tires on the gravel driveway the moment he arrived. I was sitting in my favorite armchair by the window, the one with the floral upholstery that Frank used to tease me about. I had a fresh cup of tea on the side table, but I hadn't taken a sip. Beside the tea was the manila folder. It looked so innocent sitting there, just a plain beige folder. But I knew it had the power to blow my son's life apart. I didn't have to wait long. At 7:15 p.m., headlights swept across the living room wall. I heard the aggressive crunch of tires braking too hard in the driveway. Then, the slam of a car door. It was a sound I knew well. Leo always slammed doors when he was angry. When he was a teenager, it was his bedroom door. Now, it was the door of the SUV I helped him lease. I didn't get up to unlock the front door. He still had a key. I had never asked for it back, even though he hadn't used it to visit me just to say hello in months. He only used it when he needed something. The lock turned with a sharp click. The door flew open and hit the stopper with a bang. Mom. Leo stood in the entryway. He looked wrecked. His tie was pulled loose, hanging crookedly around his neck. His shirt was untucked on one side. His face was flushed a deep, blotchy red, and his hair was a mess, like he had been running his hands through it for hours. He didn't look like the proud father I saw at the church this morning. He looked like a desperate, angry child. He marched into the living room, bringing the smell of stale stress and anger with him. "I know you're in here," he shouted, spotting me in the chair. How could you do that to us?" I looked at him calmly. I didn't flinch. I kept my hands folded in my lap. "Hello, Leo. You're late. I thought you'd be here sooner. Don't play games with me," he yelled, pointing a finger at me. "You know exactly what you did. You humiliated us." Mr. Sterling came out in the middle of the reception, in front of everyone, Mom, and told us the check was stopped. Stopped. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? "I imagine it was very embarrassing," I said, my voice steady and even, about as embarrassing as being kicked out of your own granddaughter's baptism by your own son in front of the entire congregation. Leo stopped for a second, caught off guard by my directness, but his anger was too hot to cool down that fast. He waved his hand dismissively. "That is not the same thing. We asked you to leave privately. We tried to be discreet. You publicly humiliated us. We had to send everyone home. Lisa is hysterical. She's at her parents' house right now crying her eyes out because you ruined her day." "I didn't ruin her day, Leo," I said. "I just refused to pay for it." "You promised." Leo shouted. "You wrote that check. You gave it to us. Taking it back like that. It's vindictive. It's cruel. Who does that? Who invites people to a party and then pulls the funding halfway through?" "A person who is told she isn't family," I replied. I finally picked up my tea, taking a slow sip just to show him how unbothered I was. "You made it very clear at the church, Leo. You said, 'You can't be here.' You said, 'Lisa found me overwhelming.' You established a boundary. I simply respected it. If I am not part of the family celebration, then my money isn't part of the family celebration either. You can't have it both ways. You can't treat me like a stranger and then expect me to pay like a matriarch." Leo paced around the room, running his hands over his face. "This is exactly what Lisa was talking about. She said you were controlling. She said you used money to manipulate us. And she was right. You're doing this to punish us because you didn't get your way. I'm doing this because I'm done being used." I corrected him. "There is a difference." He stopped pacing and looked at me with cold, hard eyes. The kind of look that breaks a mother's heart if she hasn't already hardened it to stone. "Well, congratulations," he spat. "You saved your $5,000. I hope it keeps you warm at night, because you're never going to see Bella again. You hear me? You are done. Lisa was right about you. She said you were toxic, and I defended you. I told her, 'No, it's just how she is.' But I was wrong. You are toxic. You're a bitter, lonely old woman who can't stand to see anyone else happy." The words hung in the air. Toxic, bitter, lonely. He was trying to hurt me. He was trying to find the soft spot in my armor so he could twist the knife. He wanted me to cry. He wanted me to beg. He wanted me to say, "I'm sorry, Leo, please let me see the baby. I'll write another check." But looking at him now, I didn't feel the urge to beg. I felt a wave of pity. He was so blind. He was defending a woman who was playing him for a fool, and he was attacking the only person in the world who actually had his back. Are you finished? I asked quietly. No, I'm not finished. Leo yelled. I want you to know that this is it. I'm changing the locks on the house. I'm blocking your number. You want to be alone? Fine. You're alone. You can't change the locks on the house, Leo, I said matter-of-factly. Watch me. You can't change the locks, I repeated, because you don't own it. I do. He froze. What? I co-signed the mortgage. My name is on the deed. And since you've missed the last 3 payments, which I covered without telling you, I suspect the bank would consider me the primary owner at this point. Leo's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He blinked, trying to process this. He had forgotten. He had been so busy playing man of the house that he forgot who actually built the foundation. And as for Lisa, I continued, setting my teacup down with a deliberate clink. You say she calls me toxic? You say she thinks I'm the problem. She knows you're the problem. Leo shot back, trying to regain his momentum. She's a good mother. She's trying to build a life for us, and you're trying to destroy it. I stood up then. My knees popped slightly, but I stood tall. I walked over to the side table and picked up the manila folder. Leo, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. I'm not the one destroying your life. I'm the one trying to salvage the wreckage. What are you talking about? He snapped, eyeing the folder. What is that? Lisa is right about a lot of things, I said, looking him dead in the eye. She's right that our relationship is broken. She's right that there are secrets in this family. But there is one thing she forgot to tell you. I took a step toward him. He didn't back away this time. He looked confused, wary. She forgot to tell you about Kenneth. The name landed like a grenade. Leo's face scrunched up. Kenneth? Who is Kenneth? What are you talking about? Kenneth, I repeated, her high school boyfriend. The one she's been having lunch with at the Plaza Hotel every Tuesday while you're at work. The one she's been paying for with cash withdrawals from your joint account. Leo stared at me. You're lying. That's insane. Lisa goes to yoga on Tuesdays. Does she? I asked. I held out the folder. Does yoga cost $300 a session? Does yoga involve checking into a hotel room for 3 hours in the afternoon? Leo looked at the folder. His hand trembled as he reached for it. He didn't want to take it. He knew deep down that the moment he touched that folder, his life was going to change forever. He wanted to scream at me again, to call me a liar, to storm out. But the seed of doubt had been planted. He remembered the missing money. He remembered her being distant. He remembered the text messages she hid when he walked into the room. Read it, I said, thrusting the folder into his chest. Read it, and then tell me who the toxic one is. Leo grabbed the folder. He ripped it open. Photos spilled out. Bank statements fluttered to the floor. The room went silent, except for the sound of my son's breathing, which was getting faster and shallower with every page he turned. The anger was draining out of him, replaced by a horror so pure it was painful to watch. I sat back down in my chair. The confrontation was over. The truth was out. Now, I just had to watch it burn. The sound of the manila envelope tearing open seemed deafening in the quiet living room. It was a dry, ripping sound, like a bandage being pulled off a wound that hasn't healed. Leo's hands were shaking so badly that a few of the glossy photographs slipped out and scattered onto the hardwood floor. He didn't bend down to pick them up immediately. He just stared at the one remaining in his hand. I watched him from my armchair. I watched the anger on his face, that hot, righteous indignation he had walked in with slowly dissolve. It didn't happen all at once. It was like watching a dam break. First came the confusion, the furrowing of his brow. Then came the shock, his eyes widening until I could see the whites all around. And finally, the horror. The absolute, gut-wrenching horror of a man realizing his entire reality was a lie. He started, his voice a hoarse whisper. He swallowed hard. This is dated last Tuesday. Yes, I said softly. October 14th. You were at the office, working late to pay for the baptism. Lisa told you she was at her prenatal yoga class. Leo looked at the photo again. Even from where I sat, I knew what it showed. It was a high-resolution shot taken with a telephoto lens. It showed Lisa sitting at a corner table at the bistro inside the Plaza Hotel. She wasn't wearing yoga pants. She was wearing the red dress I bought her for Christmas. And she wasn't stretching. She was leaning across the table, her hand resting intimately on the cheek of a man with dark hair and a leather jacket. Kenneth, I know him, Leo whispered, almost to himself. That's Ken from her hometown. She said he moved to California years ago. He moved back 6 months ago. I informed him. He's currently renting an apartment in the East End. An apartment he can't afford on his own. Leo dropped the photo. It fluttered down to join the others. He reached into the folder and pulled out the stack of documents clipped together. These weren't pictures. These were numbers. And numbers don't lie. Look at the highlighted sections, Leo. I instructed him. My voice wasn't triumphant. I felt no joy in this. In fact, my heart was breaking for him. No mother wants to be right about something like this. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to be a paranoid old woman who was imagining things. But the paper in his hands proved I wasn't. Leo flipped through the bank statements. These were statements from an account he didn't even know existed, a digital wallet app linked to their main joint account. $500, Leo read aloud. Transfer to K-Rent. $500 again. 204. Utilities. He flipped the page. His breathing was getting ragged. The baby fund, he choked out. That was the blow that knocked the wind out of him. The baby fund. It was a savings account I had set up the day Bella was conceived. I put $500 into it every single month. It was meant for her college, her future. Look at the withdrawals, Leo, I said. Every time I deposited a check, a withdrawal was made 2 days later. Cash. ATM withdrawals at a convenience store 3 blocks from Kenneth's apartment. Leo sank onto the sofa. His legs just gave out. He sat there, hunched over, staring at the line items. She stole from Bella, he whispered. The realization hit him harder than the affair. Cheating is one thing, it's a betrayal of the heart. But stealing from your own child, stealing the money your mother gave you for your baby's future to pay for a deadbeat ex-boyfriend's rent, that is a betrayal of the soul. I didn't hire Raymond because I hated her. Leo, I said, my voice cutting through the silence. I hired him because I balanced my checkbook down to the penny. 3 months ago, I noticed the discrepancies. I asked Lisa about it. She told me I was confused. She told me I was getting old and forgetful. She gaslit me, Leo. She made me question my own mind. Leo looked up at me then. His eyes were red, rimmed with tears. He looked so young, so vulnerable. The arrogance was gone. The man of the house, bravado had vanished. You knew, he said. You knew all of this. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me make a fool of myself at the church? I tried. I said, do you remember last week? I tried to sit you down. I told you we needed to talk about finances. You told me you were busy. You told me to stop micromanaging. He flinched. He remembered. And today, I sighed, leaning my head back against the chair. I had the folder in the car, Leo. I brought it with me to the church. My plan was to get through the baptism, let Bella have her holy sacrament, and then sit you down privately afterwards. I wanted to protect you from a scene. I wanted to give you the dignity of handling this quietly. I gestured to the empty space in the room where he had stood screaming at me just moments ago. But then you met me in the aisle. I continued. You and Lisa decided I wasn't worthy of being there. You cast me out. You chose her lie over my loyalty. And when I sat in that car, I realized that protecting you was hurting you. You needed to see the truth, even if it burned. Leo looked down at the floor, at the scattered photos of his wife laughing with another man. He picked up one of the bank statements. $7,000, he muttered. She took $7,000 from the baby account in 4 months. And the $5,000 for the reception, I added. She pushed for the expensive venue, not because she cared about the party, but because she knew I would pay. And she knew that if I paid for the party, the money in your joint account, your paycheck, would be free for her to use on him. Leo buried his face in his hands. A sob racked his body. It was a raw, ugly sound. The sound of a man's pride shattering. I evicted you, he mumbled into his palms. I kicked my own mother out of the church for a woman who was robbing me blind. Yes, you did, I said. I didn't offer comfort. I didn't rush over to hug him. He needed to sit in this feeling. He needed to feel the weight of his mistake so he would never make it again. She played me, Leo said, lifting his head. His face was a mask of misery. She played the victim. She told me you were mean to her. She told me you judged her. And all the while, she was projecting, I finished for him. She hated me because I was the only one paying attention. She knew I was the threat. She knew I controlled the purse strings and she needed me out of the picture so she could drain you dry without anyone noticing. Leo looked at me with a new expression. It wasn't just regret. It was respect. He realized that while he was playing checkers, I had been playing chess. He realized that the overwhelming energy Lisa complained about was actually competence. It was the energy of a woman who protects her pack. What do I do? Leo asked. He sounded like he was 5 years old again, asking me how to fix a broken toy. Mom, what do I do? The party, the guests, she's at her parents' house right now telling everyone I'm a monster because my card declined. Let her talk, I said calmly. Lies run sprints, Leo, but the truth runs marathons. She can tell whatever story she wants tonight. Tomorrow, we show the bank statements to a lawyer. I pointed to the folder. That evidence is your shield, Leo. It proves fault. It proves financial infidelity. In a divorce court, that folder is worth its weight in gold. Divorce. Leo said the word like it tasted like ash. We have a baby, a 3-month-old baby. And that baby deserves a father who isn't being robbed. I said firmly, she deserves a grandmother who is allowed to love her. Lisa made her choice, Leo. She chose Kenneth. She chose the money. She didn't choose you. She never chose you. Leo stood up slowly. He looked exhausted, like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. He gathered the papers from the floor, his movements heavy and slow. He put them back into the folder with care, treating it like the dangerous weapon it was. I'm sorry, he whispered. He didn't look at me. He couldn't. Mom, I am so sorry. I know, I said, but apologies don't fix credit scores, Leo, and they don't unring the bell of what happened at that church. I'll fix it, he vowed, clutching the folder to his chest. I don't know how yet, but I'll fix it. You can start, I said, taking a sip of my cold tea, by going home. Not to her parents' house. To your house. The house I own. You go there, you change the locks, I give you permission, and you wait. Because when she finds out the money is gone, she's going to come back. And you need to be ready. Leo nodded. He turned toward the door, then stopped. He looked back at me, standing in the entryway of the home I had built, the home he had been welcome in his entire life until he let a stranger convince him otherwise. He hesitated. Can I call you tomorrow? You can call, I said. Whether I answer depends on how you handle tonight. He nodded again, understanding. He walked out the door, closing it softly behind him this time. No slamming, just the quiet click of the latch. I sat alone in the living room. The evidence was gone, taken by the man who needed to see it most. I wasn't happy. I wasn't celebrating, but I felt a deep, settling peace. The truth was out. The infection had been exposed. Now, the healing, however painful, could finally begin. I wasn't there when Leo walked back into the house on Elm Street. I was sitting in my living room, miles away, staring at the phone and waiting. But I didn't need to be in that hallway to know exactly what happened. I know my son, and I know the woman he married. And later, when Leo finally broke down and told me the details, it played out in my head exactly as I expected. Leo pulled into the driveway of the colonial house I had helped them buy 3 years ago. The lights were blazing inside. Usually, seeing the warm glow of the windows made him feel safe. Tonight, it looked like an interrogation room. He sat in the car for a minute, gripping the steering wheel, looking at the folder on the passenger seat. The folder was heavy with the truth. He walked to the front door. He didn't fumble for his keys. He unlocked it with a steady hand. Lisa was waiting for him. Of course she was. She was pacing the hardwood floors that I paid to have refinished last year. And she was ready for a fight. She was still wearing her white dress from the baptism, though now it looked wrinkled and out of place. Her hair was messy, and her mascara was smeared. The moment Leo stepped inside, she launched her attack. "Where have you been?" she screamed. She didn't even say hello. "You left me at my parents' house for 2 hours. I had to take an Uber home with the baby because you took the car. Do you have any idea how humiliating today has been?" Leo didn't answer. He closed the door behind him and locked it. Click. "Are you listening to me?" Lisa yelled, stomping closer to him. "Your mother is insane, Leo. She ruined everything. She canceled the check out of spite. I want you to call a lawyer tomorrow. I want to sue her for emotional distress. I'm serious, Leo. She is not allowed near Bella ever again. I want a restraining order." She was breathless, her face twisted in that familiar look of righteous victimhood. She truly believed she was the injured party. She truly believed that if she screamed loud enough, Leo would fold, apologize, and fix it. That's how it had worked for their entire marriage. But tonight, Leo didn't fold. He walked past her into the living room. He didn't take off his coat. He just stood by the coffee table. "Leo," Lisa screeched, following him. "Why aren't you saying anything? Did you talk to her? Did you tell her off?" Leo turned around slowly. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. He saw the woman he thought he loved, and then he looked at the folder in his hand. "I talked to her," Leo said. His voice was terrifyingly calm. It was the calm of a man who has nothing left to lose. "And," Lisa demanded, crossing her arms, "is she going to pay the bill? Is she going to apologize?" "No," Leo said. "She isn't." He lifted the folder. He didn't hand it to her. He turned it upside down and shook it. The photographs fluttered down like autumn leaves. They hit the expensive Persian rug. Lisa looked down. She frowned, confused at first. Then she saw the top photo. It was the one of her at the Plaza Hotel. The one where Kenneth was kissing her hand. The color drained from her face so fast it looked like she might faint. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked up at Leo, her eyes wide with panic. "Leo," she stammered. What is this?" "That is you," Leo said, pointing at the floor. "And that is Kenneth." Your old friend from high school. Lisa tried to laugh, but it came out as a strangled choke. Leo, don't be ridiculous. He's just a friend. We were just catching up. This is innocent. Your mother is having me followed. She's crazy. These are out of context. Out of context, Leo repeated. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the crumpled bank statements I had given him. Is this out of context too? He threw the papers at her. They hit her chest and fell to the floor, landing right on top of the photos. $500 for his rent, Leo recited from memory. $300 for his utilities. $200 for his groceries. Cash withdrawals from the ATM on 4th Street, all taken from the baby fund. Lisa froze. The innocent friend, defense died in her throat. She couldn't explain the money. She couldn't explain why Bella's college savings were paying a stranger's electric bill. Lisa started to cry, the tears coming instantly. Leo, please. It's not what you think. He was in trouble. He needed help. I was just loaning it to him. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd get jealous. Jealous? Leo laughed, a cold, bitter sound. I'm not jealous, Lisa. I'm disgusted. You stole from our daughter. You stood in that church this morning, holding our baby, acting like a holy mother, knowing full well you had drained her account to support your boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend, she wailed. Stop lying. Leo roared. The sound echoed off the walls. Just stop. It's over, Lisa. The lies are over. I know everything. Mom showed me everything. Lisa's face hardened instantly. The tears stopped. The victim act vanished, replaced by the cornered animal. Of course, she spat. Mommy, it always comes back to Mommy. You went running to her, didn't you? You let that old witch poison your mind against your wife. She didn't poison me, Leo said. She woke me up. Well, I don't care. Lisa shouted. This is my marriage, Leo, and this is my house. If you want to believe her over me, then fine. But you are not going to talk to me like that in my own home. If you don't like it, you can leave. Get out. She pointed at the door, trying to regain control. She was playing her trump card. She thought that because she was the mother of his child, she held the ultimate power. She thought she could kick him out. Leo just looked at her. He looked at her, finger pointing at the door. Your house. Leo asked quietly. Yes, my house. Lisa yelled. I picked out the paint. I picked out the furniture. It's my home. And I want you out. Leo shook his head slowly. Lisa, do you even know whose name is on the deed? It's ours, she insisted. We bought it together. No, Leo corrected her. We didn't buy anything. We couldn't afford it. Remember? My credit score was too low. Your credit was non-existent. We didn't qualify for the loan. Lisa blinked. She had conveniently forgotten that part. Mom co-signed. Leo said, delivering the blow with brutal precision. Mom put up the down payment. And because we've missed 3 mortgage payments, money you apparently spent on Kenneth, the bank technically considers the primary holder responsible. He took a step closer to her. Mom is the primary holder. Lisa. Mom is on the deed. It's her house. Lisa stared at him, her mouth hanging open. The reality of her situation was crashing down on her. She had kicked Yvette out of the family, thinking Yvette was just a nuisance. She hadn't realized Yvette was the landlord. And Leo continued, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, since you decided this morning that Mom isn't family, and since you told her she wasn't welcome, I have a very strong feeling that she isn't going to want a stranger living in her property rent-free. She can't evict me, Lisa whispered, her voice trembling. I have a baby. She won't evict the baby, Leo said. But you're a liability. You're a financial risk. And frankly, you're a thief. Leo walked over to the closet near the stairs. He pulled out a suitcase, the big red one they used for vacations. He tossed it onto the sofa. "Pack a bag," he said. Lisa looked at the suitcase, then back at him. "What?" "I said pack a bag," Leo repeated. "You're going to your parents' house. Tonight." "I'm not leaving my daughter." Lisa screamed, lunging for him. Leo caught her wrists. He didn't hurt her, but he held her firm. "Bella stays here. She stays in her crib, in her home. You are leaving. You can come back and discuss custody when you have a lawyer and a reasonable explanation for where my daughter's money went. But tonight, you are not sleeping under my roof, and you are certainly not sleeping under my mother's roof." He let her go. Lisa stumbled back. She looked around the room, searching for an ally, searching for a way out. But the walls were silent. The evidence was on the floor. The checkbook was closed. She realized then that she had overplayed her hand. She had mistaken kindness for weakness. She thought Yvette was soft. She didn't realize that Yvette was concrete, quiet, supportive, but if you hit it hard enough, you're the one who breaks. Lisa grabbed the suitcase. She didn't pack clothes. She just grabbed her purse and her keys, sobbing loudly, trying one last time to make him feel guilty. "You're breaking up our family, Leo," she cried at the door. "No," Leo said, turning his back on her. "You broke it the first time you bought Kenneth lunch with Bella's money. I'm just sweeping up the pieces." He heard the door open. He heard her hesitate, waiting for him to call her back. When he didn't, she slammed the door. Leo stood alone in the silence of the house. He looked down at the photos on the rug. He felt shattered. His chest hurt. His eyes burned. But for the first time all day, the air in the room felt clean. The lie was gone. He picked up his phone. He dialed my number. I answered on the first ring. "It's done," he said, his voice breaking. "She's gone." "I know," I said softly from my armchair. "I'm proud of you, Leo." "I don't feel proud," he whispered. "I feel like I lost everything." "You didn't lose everything," I told him. "You just lost the weight that was drowning you. Now we rebuild." 3 months have passed since the day I walked out of St. Jude's Church. 3 months since I sat in my car at that scenic overlook and made the decision to stop being a victim. Today, the sunlight is streaming through the bay window of my living room. It's a soft, golden afternoon light, the kind that warms your bones. But the warmth I feel isn't just from the sun. It's from the small, sleeping bundle in my arms. Bella is asleep on my chest. She smells like milk and lavender baby lotion. Her tiny hand is curled around my thumb, gripping it tight, as if she knows that this is exactly where she belongs. I look down at her long eyelashes that rest against her chubby cheeks, and I feel a peace so profound it almost brings tears to my eyes. This was what they tried to take from me. This was the overwhelming energy Lisa wanted to banish. But babies know the truth. Babies know who loves them. And Bella sleeps soundly in my arms because she knows she is safe. From the kitchen, I can hear the clinking of silverware and the smell of roasting chicken. Leo is cooking Sunday dinner. He's living in the colonial house alone now, but he spends every Sunday here with me. He looks different than he did 3 months ago. He's lost a little weight, and there are new lines around his eyes. He looks tired, yes, but he also looks real. The arrogance is gone. That polished, fake veneer he wore when he was trying to keep up with Lisa's lifestyle has been stripped away. Leo walked out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Dinner is almost ready, Mom. I made the potatoes the way you like them, with the rosemary." "Thank you, Leo," I whispered, careful not to wake the baby. He sat down on the ottoman opposite my chair, watching his daughter sleep. "She looks peaceful," he said softly. "She is," I agreed. "It hasn't been an easy 3 months. I won't lie and say that everything magically fixed itself overnight. Real life isn't a fairy tale. Real life is messy lawyers, court dates, and uncomfortable conversations. Lisa is living with her parents in the next town over. The divorce papers were filed the Monday after the baptism. It turns out, when you present a judge with clear evidence of financial theft and infidelity, the proceedings move quite quickly. Lisa tried to fight it at first. She tried to play the victim card again. She went on social media and posted crying videos, claiming I had manipulated Leo and stolen her home. But the internet is a fickle place. When the truth came out, when the details of the baby fund theft were made public in the court filings, her support evaporated. She is currently facing civil charges for the money she took. My lawyer, a shark of a woman named Mrs. Gable, is ensuring that every single penny Lisa siphoned off for Kenneth is repaid. Lisa is working now, a real job, answering phones at a dental office, and her wages are being garnished. And Kenneth, as soon as the money tap ran dry, so did his affection. He was gone before the ink was dry on the eviction notice. Leo looked up at me, pulling me out of my thoughts. I brought the check, Mom. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He placed it on the side table. It was a check for $500. Leo, you don't have to. I do, he interrupted firmly. I sold the SUV. I'm driving the Honda now. It's cheaper on gas and insurance. I'm going to pay you back every cent, Mom. Not just for the mortgage payments I missed, but for everything. For the car, for the reception, all of it. I looked at him. I saw a man who was finally taking responsibility. He wasn't asking for a handout. He wasn't asking me to fix it. He was fixing it himself. I appreciate it, I said, accepting the check. I didn't tear it up. I didn't tell him to keep it, because respect is a two-way street. By accepting his money, I was treating him like a man, not a child. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it, Leo said, his voice thick with emotion. I was so afraid of losing her, I didn't realize I was losing myself. You were protecting what you thought was your family, I told him gently. That's a noble instinct, Leo. It was just directed at the wrong person. He nodded, looking down at his hands. I learned a lot from you that day, Mom. I used to think you were just there, like a safety net that would never break. When you stopped that check, when you walked away, it scared the hell out of me, but it also woke me up. I smiled. That was the point. I've done a lot of thinking about that day. People talk about revenge like it's this hot, fiery thing. They think it's about screaming matches and throwing drinks. But I've learned that the most powerful revenge is silent. Silent revenge isn't about hurting people. I didn't want to hurt Lisa. I didn't want to hurt my son. Silent revenge is simply the act of removing your protection. It's stepping back and letting people face the consequences of their own actions. I had spent years shielding them from reality with my checkbook. I shielded them from debt, from struggle, from responsibility. And because I shielded them, they never respected me. They thought the shade I provided was their right, not a gift. When I stepped away, the sun burned them. That wasn't my fault. That was gravity. The timer, Leo said, jumping up as the oven beeped. Chicken's done. He went back into the kitchen. I adjusted Bella in my arms. She stirred, let out a little sigh, and settled back into sleep. The house smelled like roasted chicken and rosemary. It smelled like home. We would eat dinner soon. Just the three of us. It wasn't the big, flashy party Lisa had wanted at the Gilded Lily. There were no photographers, no flower walls, no imported champagne. Just a grandmother, a father, and a baby sitting around a kitchen table. But as I looked around my quiet living room, free of drama, free of lies, and full of genuine love, I knew one thing for sure. I had won. I didn't win by fighting. I won by knowing my worth. I won by walking away. And in the end, everything that truly belonged to me, my son, my granddaughter, my dignity, found its way back home. Leo called out from the kitchen. Plates are on the table, Mom. Come and eat. I stood up slowly, holding my granddaughter close to my heart. We're coming, I said, and for the first time in a long time, I knew we were going to be just fine. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story.